Hey everybody, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, giving you my weekly comic book review. So sit back and enjoy.
News about comic books, musical instruments, tech reviews, and video games with your host, Captain Frugal.
Welcome back, comic book fans, and welcome back to the channel. Every week, a flood of comics hits the shelves, and it can be tough to decide what to pick up. But don't worry, that's what I'm here for. We're about to dive in to this week's releases to crown one book the comic of the week. Will it be an epic superhero showdown, a mind-bending indie darling, or maybe a hilarious new series that everyone has been talking about? I've read a stack of them, and I've got some strong opinions. So stick around to the very end to see which comic earned the top spot and why you absolutely need to add it to your collection. Feel free to drop your own picks in the comments below. I'd love to see what you're reading. So, let's get into it. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more comic book reviews every week. All right, comic book fans, let's start with none other than issue number 33 of Green Lantern. With 373 ratings, a 4.0 score, positive rating, and I gave the book a 3.6, not quite as high. I like the cover. It puts the focus on the character that really matters, Hal Jordan. I know I just pissed a bunch of people off, but I'm sorry, this is the 600th issue. He's the main Green Lantern. It does focus on other Green Lanterns in this issue, in particular Kyle Rayner. I'm going to be honest, I have never been a big Kyle Rayner fan. Sorry, I guess I got to pronounce his name right. In this issue, Hal does ask him to take care of Los Angeles while he takes off, sort of with question marks of where is he going, what happened here, and so we get a little more development. I do say I appreciate that. This book is written by Jeremy Adams, Ron Mars, because there's multiple stories, and so we get a little more insight into Kyle. Now, Kyle was a Ron Mars kind of thing here, and so you're going to get that. You also get Wally West, though, in here, so that's nice. And so this issue has multiple stories. Kyle he gets on a mission to get escaped prisoners. Well, at least that's his excuse. He's got to catch these prisoners here, these escaped ones, and he sort of runs into one out of accident. So we get that, and this is, if you're like me, not a big Kyle Rayner fan, this probably helps you out a little bit to like the character a little bit more here. And in this, we get another story with Hal Jordan getting help, but where? From who is this from? And why? Well, I don't want to give it all away because this is actually a pretty good issue, especially if you are not big into Green Lanterns and you wanted to give it a try. This is a good introductory issue to get a little more understanding of each one. The cover's pretty good. There's some other covers that are available that are pretty good as well. And when looking at other people's scores, I think a lot of them, it was all over the place here, and it might be because of the Kyle thing. So let's check out a couple here. Let's read a little bit of this 4.5-star review. Who the heck is Kyle Rayner? Well, you are in the right place then, because this is truly the best jumping on point that you'll ever find for him and Hal Jordan. And that's exactly what I was getting at. This was a good point for anybody, I think, jumping onto the Green Lantern title. Let's look at one, though, that is a 3.5-star. Kind of learned last minute that this was a historic milestone issue, which is well enough, but when I saw it focused on Kyle Rayner, I had to pick it up. So see, we have a person here that really likes Kyle. So that's cool. I'm looking over. Okay, this one is a person didn't rate it at all, but still gave his views. Ever since I started reading comics, Kyle's been my favorite Green Lantern. I didn't grow up with Kyle in his prime, but I still ended up loving this character. See, now this is interesting to me because I think it's good. I'm giving some diverse opinions here because he was never my favorite character. Who is your favorite Green Lantern? I would like to know. The next book I would like to talk about is Justice League Unlimited number 17 with 608 ratings, 3.5 score, mostly positive, and I gave the book a higher score at 3.6. Boy, that does not happen often. Writers Mark Waid, artist is Clayton Henry. The cover I think is automatically interesting. It does a better job than what we've seen with Marvel and Avengers. Marvel Avengers had several issues, I think it was 3, where they put a whole bunch of characters on the cover, but they were all standing straight with their arms down, looking boring as can be. this does a better job of that. Learn a lesson, Marvel. They need to have some action there. So anyway, supervillains on the Justice League. Well, after the events of Knockout, the aftermath of the Omega tournament, there is sort of a movement here pushed by Wonder Woman to have an opportunity of redemption for the villains. And we even get a fight that ensues, just assuming the villains are being villainous when actually they're doing something good. And they're mentioning you always expect the worst. You know, when the world's coming to an end, you don't think that changes somebody. So we have a potential redemption arc in such which the Justice League realizes, hey, you know, this threat is still coming. If you haven't read KO, you realize that even though it ended, it's not over. There's something bigger with Darkseid yet even coming. And they're going to need everybody they can, so they start recruiting villains. So I think it's pretty interesting. Well, let's see what some other people say. Here's a 3.5 star. Fantastic new era for Justice League. And for me, it seems like it's an era that really embraces Unlimited in their moniker. Yeah, because I mean, we're going beyond even heroes to villains, so that's pretty interesting. Another one, 4 stars. This is definitely a step in the right direction for this series. Okay, Wade, you got my attention now. Following the events of DC Knockout, all the Earth's heroes are different. Rather, they're affected by the trauma of the tournament, what they've done, or their powers. No one's really the same. So shouldn't that same thing be said about the villains? Yeah, and that's a good take. I'm looking for another one. Okay, here we go. A 2 star. Something runs a little negative here. I think I would have liked the direction of treating known villains as equals in an attempt to possibly rehabilitate them by taking them in and allowing them to do good. If it wasn't so obvious that the villains they're recruiting are bound to backstab them when the time comes for the next crisis event, especially given who they decide to recruit. Now, I'm not going to tell you who they recruit. I want to surprise you. Who do you think they should recruit? What villain would you choose for a shot at redemption? Anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Now, this next book, Superman number 36, 1,202 ratings, 4.6 score. I gave it a 4, and this was almost my book of the week. So that tells you, that's a pretty high score for me. So looking at that, we have the writer Joshua Williamson and Dan Mora. The cover has got Superman Prime right on it because it says Superboy Prime time starts here. So what we're going to get is a redemption arc possibly for Superman Prime or Superboy Prime, whatever you want to call him. And because Superman's gone because of the KO, we don't exactly know what's going on there. So Superman Prime is stepping in to fill in the void. And he's struggling with the things he's done in the past. And so he's going to ask himself how to be a hero by basing himself on what would Superman do? What would Clark do? Also, he's a huge comic book fan. This issue is very meta. Very, very meta. So we get that view on him reading comic books on how to be a hero. We get Lois here trying to help him as well. Now with that said, let's look at what some other people say here. We have a 5 star. Oh my goodness, I think I have a new book to look forward to in my pull list every month. And low key, I am Godsmacked. Prime, now going by CK for civilians, is a show pony braggart who know what he looks like and flaunts it. I think he meant knows. Yeah, because he knows he's built well and things like that. He wants to see fire and ice. So, you know, can you blame him? Right? Let's look at another one. 5 star. Words cannot describe how much I love this. Truly a comic book made for comic book lovers. And the next Superman Prime issues are more of the same. I'm super freaking hyped for it. Yes, in other words, he loved this. I love seeing the odd comics references here and there. But Mora tagging his name in and the rest of the team on that one panel, so cute. Yeah, I think this is a really, as I said, very, very meta issue. As I'm scrolling through, I am not seeing anything below a 4 star. I'm seeing tons of 4s and 5s. It seems like everybody is in this book. DC, I think you might have found something here. You might have hit the nail on the head. What's your thoughts? Are you going to check out this issue of Superman, or are you waiting for Clark to come back? Let's shift gears to Marvel with The Amazing Spider-Man number 25. 485 ratings with a 3.6 score, and I gave the book just a little less with a 3.5. Writers Joe Kelly, artist of Pierre Perez. And we have the more of this death spiral. We get the 5th issue in this miniseries. For Spider-Man, Venom and Carnage leads to the most unexpected team-up in Spidey history. You sort of see it with the cover here, right? here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of this Torment character. The thing is, well, first of all, I'm not really big into Death Spiral. I'm not going on my way. I'm reading regular Spider-Man there too. But we don't know enough about this villain, I think, at this point to really care. And they're making it really sound like he killed a Shocker too, which I'm not happy about that. There is an interesting meta little section here, though, in the book with Miles Morales talking to Norman Osborn. And nice little meta humor here with Miles saying, if you want to hear how much, I suck, if I want to hear how much I suck, I'll search online, not my Spider-Man. Well, you know what? That's true. Now, just for the record, before you get mad at me, Miles, I liked him in the Ultimate Universe. I think he lost what made him special when he went to the traditional 616, because now there's too many Spider-Mans, and I think we get that. It's, some characters that make sense, like Green Lantern. In a way, Flash, because it's a family, but Spider-Man having a zillion Spider-Mans run around just dilutes the character, and it's hard to make a character stick out. Speaking of sticking out, the cover's okay in this issue. There's some interesting open order covers, and the artwork I think is pretty good throughout too. Looking at other people's views, though, it's very mixed on this book. So let's look at first a 3.5 star. Forgive my quote me quote lovers. There's just no good quotes to use for this issue. Now, I don't agree. I said with that Miles one, I think that's good. And by the way, there's some good retailer exclusive covers for this one too as well. With that said, here's another one, mixed bag of an issue for me. Carnage is the real antagonist of this chapter of Death Spiral. And there's another issue I have. Right now in the New Avengers, Carnage has been helping them. So where's the editors in here in continuity of what's going on? I'd like to know that too. Here's a 3-star. Overall, all right issue, but a step down from the overall quality Kelly's run has had thus far. First off, the art by Ed McGuinness is great as always. I tend to like his art on Spider-Man as well. So they like the art. So that's a good thing too. So the scores are very, very mixed in this. I see even 1 star. Part of it's all right, mainly the art being fantastic. McGuinness is the artist that comes to mind when I think about Spidey. Not me, but I think he does a good job, Spidey. Pete saving MJ is nice. At least he gets to have his hero moment. Yeah, that's true too. He does that. Here's another little thing too, though, that I think is a little weird. The Venom symbiote mentions that Mary Jane's heart rate goes up when she's talking about Flash, sort of like she's attracted to Flash, and Peter's like, well, I understand he's different now. I'm sorry. Come on now. If Peter's into Mary Jane and he loves her and had this, he would not have been, oh, it's okay. I understand my friend's different now. I mean, yeah, he is, but come on now. What man would do that? What's your thoughts on The Amazing Spider-Man? Did you like it? Or did you think it was just sort of a letdown for Amazing Spider-Man number 25? The next issue I want to talk about is Deadly Hands of Kunlun number 2. This book has only 57 ratings, which means at this point, I don't think anybody's barely picking up this book. And it has a 3.3 score, and I understand that. I gave it a better score, 3.6, because I like the lore of these characters. But I understand some good gripes here. The writer is Yifeng Young. Ooh, I butchered that, sorry. And Paco Medina and Alessandro Marco are the artists of this one. First of all, I thought the cover's pretty good. We got Davos versus the new, and this is my thing though, the new Iron Fist, which I think he's an okay character, but I like him as swordsman. I'd like to see somehow get the sword back together, put him there. I want Danny Rand, and that might be the problem. People got in this and they didn't see Danny Rand. And, we're at issue 2 now, too, and we still don't have Danny Rand. I think Marvel needs to wake up here. Okay, we have the all-out war on Kunlun, and they're getting taken over. We have Loki involved, too, and we have this group getting together fighting Iron Fist, Elektra, White Fox. Okay, great. And at the end, we get the Eternals are coming there, so we're getting Karnak. So we're getting all these characters, but we're not getting Danny Rand. I know he's not, quote, Iron Fist, unquote, anymore. He's Ghost, whatever. But that's the miss here. Otherwise, decent art, decent action, decent story progression. When I said decent art really is a mixed bag. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes some of the characters were out of proportion. Like Davos, he was drawn like he was fat in a few issues, which didn't make sense. I think this is going to be a hard sell for a lot of people that aren't real into the lore of Iron Fist, especially when you don't have the main Iron Fist that people knew. Marvel, get Danny Rand back. But let's look at some other people. 3-star. The comic is doing too much. The pacing is so off, like you're focusing on one thing and the next panel it changes to something completely different, which just breaks the building up of interest all of a sudden. The dialogues are distasteful as well. Yeah, I think the dialogue really needed some work here too. Let's look at another one, 3-star. Oh, I feel like I'm missing some previous reading to fully comprehend what's happening here. You know, and that could be a problem too. As I said, if you are not into the lore of Iron Fist, this could be a hard sell, hard to understand. But let's look at a 4-star. It felt like a really big filler. So I gotta read them as they are. Bunch of pages, but not a lot said or done. It just reiterated information from the last comic issue with nothing really going on that could have been at the very least shortened to include other information. Still love it though, just hope for better next issue. And let's look at a 2.5-star. This is quite the roundabout way to bring in Karnak and Arrow in. Ninja Invasion of New York. It is what you expect, honestly. Another one, here only for Loki. Another one, 2.5. Okay, Karnak. Okay. Here's one though. Let's end on this one. Here's hoping Danny and Pi are main characters in this and not sidelined. But this solicit doesn't inspire hope. No, it does not, because we hit no Danny here and very little Pi. So it is what it is. I'm hoping for better. I'm hoping for a good turn. Are you reading this? If not, I can't tell you to check it out. I'm gonna have to wait and see till next issue. Next one I want to talk about something a little bit different. That's Dungeons of Doom number 3 with 241 ratings, 3.6 score, and I gave it a close with the 3.5. We have the writer Benjamin Percy and Philip Kennedy Johnson. Artist is Carlos Magno and Robert Gill and Justin Mason. This is an interesting book because you have no real hero. What actually the book is about is what the title is, the Dungeons of Doom. What is in there and what has Doom been holding and probably protecting everybody from, to be fair, because if this stuff gets out, it's dangerous. And that's what we see here. What happens? The things that were hidden away are causing terrible things as things like Hydra and things are getting a hold of them. The art throughout is a mixed bag too, and that's because we have multiple artists. There is some brutal violence in here, I will say, but some of the pages and the panels are just not so great. As I said, it's a real mixed bag, so it's sort of hard to read, but I get it. Each artist is giving a different story from a different group of what's going on. So what I would have to say on this one, in my personal opinion, is read this if you've already been reading it, but this is not a time to start reading it if you haven't. With that said, let's look at a couple other people's views and see what they say. We have a 2.5-star. Dungeons of Doom ends, and it's not a particularly good one either. This mini was not bad necessarily. I don't think this is over. Is it? Well, I guess, yeah, the way they put it, it was sort of an ending. All the technical things are fine enough. Okay writing, decent art, and an intriguing premise. However, it all falls flat because of the lack of interest. None of the characters are particularly unique or enjoyable, and I get that, because a lot of these are bad guys. I mean, the most mainstream one here is Red Hulk. Let's look at another one. 3.5. Dungeons of Doom number 3 is an anthology wrap-up where some doors close clean and one gets slammed shut before anyone ever had a chance to walk through it. The Wakanda story is the weak link. I agree, that one was really boring to me. The art looks rushed, the story feels underdeveloped, and the whole thing wraps up like someone remembered they had a deadline mid-page. And I guess that's why it sort of stunned me that this is the end, because when I thought about it, each story sort of did end there, but it was so fast, so blunt. It's almost like maybe they thought this was a good idea and nobody was getting it, so they said, hey, let's turn this 5-issue series into a 3. Let's wrap it up right now. That's the only thing I can think of. Let's see here if I can find some. Here we go, 4-star. Oh, so this is what kicks off Armageddon. Red Hulk is infected with this mutant and goes on a devastating tear. And I like it's trying to Infernal. Boy, but people's writing there. Okay, so I get it. It's a segue into something else. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's the goal. Only maybe read this if you're really wanting something to be ahead of Armageddon to get an understanding of that. Otherwise, I have to say skip it. All right, let's fly into Iron Man number 3. If you remember from my previous statements, Iron Man is on an upswing, in my opinion, of the writing and content. This had 499 ratings with a 3.9 score on League of Comics Geeks. I give it a little less, which is usual, with a 3.6. The writer is Joshua Williamson. Artist is Carmen Carnero. And the cover right off the bat's pretty good. Okay, we got Iron Man punching a member of the of AIM there, and there's some open order covers. Some are which are pretty interesting, and some are just doesn't make any sense. Like, why do we have Deadpool in a cardboard box suit? Doesn't make any sense. But it was really cool. One cool one here that I recommend looking into those and seeing what you can see there. So we have AIM versus MODOK, sort of, because, well, Iron Man's here to save MODOK, which is interesting. So AIM is continuing to use the captured people to generate their own technology. They want to find their own Stark, if you will. And of course, you know, when Iron Man saves MODOK, MODOK uses the opportunity to strike back at him and eventually realizes he needs them. And, well, nonetheless, Iron Man's going to have to protect MODOK because he's using them for information. And we have a new Citizen V in this. So if you are an old school Thunderbolts fan, this might be interesting to you. Who is the new Citizen V, and why did he help Iron Man? He says he's keeping an eye on him. So is he going to be good? Is he going to be bad? Who knows? AIM is also part of the reason the MODOK was getting attacked is they're sort of going through a bit of a civil war. Who's trying to control? Because the whole Doom thing left a vacuum, if you will, of people trying to gain control of the tech and things like that. So this is really a good issue, good story progression. It's the best Iron Man we've had in quite a while. It seems like Iron Man, especially under idiots like Slott and things, you know, made him a stepchild, and they just... I hate when people go in to dive in to try to put their thumbprint on it so hard that it ruins the story, and just Iron Man's been falling flat since. But not everybody agrees with me here. Let's look at this 2-star. First of all, I want to say what I'm loving about this book before I get into the negatives. I love Carmen Carnero and her art. It's stellar, serious stellar. This might be the best Iron Man suit it ever looked. I love the covers. Stegman is the man. I also really like the corner boxes. It's so fun. I really like the cast. So they got a lot of good things to say here. So, you know, then they get a 2 though. Now for the not nice things. I'm really confused while reading this. I want to like this book so much. I don't want to sound too hyperbolic, but this might be the series that I wanted to like for most ever. Okay. I feel like this is a really weird, bad comic. I don't know how to put my finger on it. So why would you give it a 2, right? I don't know. They just struggle there. I don't think they have a reason to give it so low. Let's look at another one here and see what their thoughts are. This one says it says another pretty good issue here. I'm really enjoying what Williamson's building here. Tony is still searching for the kidnapped geniuses, and Madame Mask is only getting closer to creating her new Tony Stark. Yeah. Scrolling through, there's a lot of 4s here. It seems like 4 seems to be the landing point of this issue, but I did find a 3. I'm glad to see Tony at the end of the day still a hero and not mischaracterized somehow in this new run. Yes, see what I mean here? Regardless of who MODOK is, everyone deserves to be saved. But in that same token, every villain deserves to take his chance, and that's what we got. Yeah, you know what? Well said. Well, now let's look at a 2-star here. I was looking forward to just seeing Tony have a lightly teased new romance for himself. Do we really need to throw Pepper in some awkward moments involving the X nonsense? Yeah, there is the issue where he's get a date here, and then Pepper comes and it throws a wrench in. But to be honest, I could give a crap about this new female character. I know Tony goes through women pretty good, but this one just doesn't stick it for me. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on this issue? I'd love to hear it. Now this month we got 2 Punisher books. Let's talk about Marvel Knights Punisher number 4 with 109 ratings, 3.8 score, and I give it a 3.7, pretty close. We have writer Jimmy Palmiotti and artist Dan Panozia. And I'm going to say right off the bat, the art style is, you either like it or you don't. It's a gritty style, but it's not very detailed. There is some other covers, like in particular incentive cover that's pretty good, but nothing too fantastic here. Punisher's out for revenge. That's pretty much what it is. He's been zombified, taken control, and he didn't really appreciate it, and he's getting even in this issue. The art is a bit messy and hard to follow in some cases. But in this issue, Frank is bringing a knife to a gunfight. Yeah, normally you'd say that's a bad mistake, but for some reason, I feel like that's more than enough when it comes to the Punisher. There is some pretty good action, and this issue does have a solid conclusion to it. So this short miniseries, I think, ends well, but it does leave, there's always an opening here. Let's check out somebody else's view here with a 3.5 star. This 4-issue miniseries is an alt canon set in the future of the Worlds to Come universe. It covers Punisher's brainwashing service, a battle against the Molero cartel, and the art is stunning. See, this person loved the art. Yeah, I get that. Another one, well, after reading issue 4, the final issue of the series, and doing a little research, I found out what Marvel Knights, The Punisher, The World to Come, number 1 through 4 really is. It's a prequel to the alternative possible future timeline of the main 616 Marvel Universe based on the rest of the Marvel Knights World to Come books. Yeah, this is not the main series tale, and it makes sense. You get a different version of Punisher here. His face gets all messed up too. So it is what it is. Another one, this issue definitely felt rushed. Lots of short scenes jumping around and getting the most important info straight to you. But the panel of Frank eating with his friends was worth the wait for this issue alone. Strangely feel good ending for a Punisher comic, but I liked it. And that's really what it is. I think this was strangely well put. Strange. It was a little different, but I enjoyed it. I am almost to my number 1 pick of the week. I know this comic book review is long, but it's not this one. The New Avengers number 10 with 158 ratings, 3.3 score on League of Comics Geeks, which isn't real high. I actually gave it a little higher with 3.5. First of all, I liked the cover. Once again, if you're going to put a lot of characters on a cover, make it interesting. The one-point perspective, looking at you with the heroes, worked well. But, then there comes the negatives. So we have the writer, Sam Humphries, artist, Tom Lee. I almost feel like this story was rushed, right? We get the final answer of who is the Shadow Boss, but he doesn't even really exist. We've got Baron Zemo cloning himself, trying to bring himself back. Interesting premise there. Decent cover. I think it does pull you in. The art is okay. And, but with that said, the heroes here fight to stop the Killuminati, and we get rid of them, which is good because I think they were sort of lame. And then the team's disbanding. Now the Avengers come and say, hey, we didn't give you permission to use the Avengers name. They're like, hey, we got Bruce. And they're like, well, Bruce doesn't have that power. But here's the problem. We had so much unexplored here. It's like the book maybe wasn't selling enough, so they just canned it. We had in this that Carnage, the fight within Carnage there with Eddie, and that was never explored any further. There was lots of sub things here they just go. And in the ending was, well, we had a hard enough time holding the team together, Avengers. But if we need to get back together and call ourselves Avengers, we will. What? That was dumb. So it was sort of like they rushed this to an end because it probably wasn't selling well. It was a cast that could have been good if further explored. But let's look at a couple other people here. This 2.5 star. If I could describe New Avengers with a phrase, that would be farming aura and hyping moments, because that was most of it, if not all, the premise of this book. On one side, Humphries decided to focus on what happened with Bucky. He's still treated as a criminal, though, for something Doom did. Yeah, I get that. Now let's look at a 4-star. Somebody likes it a lot. Not that it's ended. I can say that overall this was a fun but flawed series. When it focused on the character interactions, it's great. But the plot is messy, and it isn't helped by the fact that during the second half of the run, it's all over the place. Yeah, I agree. This person thinks it would have been better if the structure didn't become overly complex, and that seems like a Marvel thing. They have to try to make everything overly complex lately. Let's look at another one here, 3-star. That was the end goal? Bit disappointed, but okay. Why not? Wasn't expecting for the clones of such capable characters to be put in display for that. But I guess it makes sense for a selfish character. I always read this for Laura. Can't complain, had fun. I missed Tony's clone. What a fun personality he had. But that was really easy exit to make of him in Ouroboros to die like that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was sort of, as I said, it seemed pretty rushed. And let's look at another 2.5 star. Honestly, I think we'd all prefer comic runs about Bucky and Nat just being a hot duo who do all kinds of Black Ops type of superhero works together. Confident that's what fans of both characters love seeing them do together more than putting them in forced teams. What are your thoughts? Did you want to see some issues of them together? Would that be better? Because it just seems like people weren't really getting this. And I do think this was a hard team to sell, and it needed more time to bake. But we didn't get it. Now for my number 1 book of the week, The Punisher number 2 with 404 ratings, a 4.0 score. I gave it a 4.1. Yep, I sure did. We have, wow, Frank is back. We have Benjamin Piercy and as the writer, Jose Luis Soros Pinto for the penciler. And I, for one, am glad to have Punisher back. And something I've noticed here is they really still haven't gotten any detail on how he came back. And I think maybe they're leaving that alone because that story sucked. And to get away from that, they're going to probably do anything they can. There's some open order covers for this too that are also really darn good. But what I think sells this is, first of all, it's a decent cover because we got Jigsaw and the Punisher here. We got Jigsaw back as well. So yeah, not only is Frank back, we have got Jigsaw, and he's launching an all-out assault on the street to take over. He's taken over. He wants to be in charge. He wants to be the big person. He's got Tombstone incarcerated and not letting him out and taking over. And at the end of this issue, you know some bad stuff is going to happen. And we have Punisher here. Frank gets a doctor to help him because he's been getting these, I don't know, maybe seizures, you call them, something that's happening to him. And they believe it's because of that thing that was put in his head that he had removed from the last Punisher series, which was, you know, they should have just kept the numbering. And the doctor thinks, after checking him out, even though Frank's a mess, I've never seen somebody so messed up from just the shoulder above. It's seen more damage than anybody in my life because what all he's been through. He goes, I don't think this is physical. So what are we going to do? Get the Punisher a shrink? Man, I tell you, the art is good in this issue. The story is interesting. I'm really, really wondering, are they just going to never tell us how Frank is back? I think that might be the best way, because I don't know about you, that storyline to get Frank out of the Marvel universe, because Marvel being Marvel, you know, and we can't hit Skull because they're idiots like that. They cut off their nose in spite of their face. Are they going to ignore that? Is that the best thing to do? What are your thoughts? Should they just ignore that storyline and act like it never happened, or should they eventually tell us what happened there? And we also get Microchip back here too. Still not really a pleasant relationship between the two. Just really down to earth, good Punisher, and I'm looking forward to issue 3, and I hope you are too. And that's why that is, with a 4.1 score, my book of the week.